In the heart of the Louisiana bayou, where the air hums with the whispers of ancient spirits and the shadows dance to the rhythm of unseen forces, there resided an old woman named Mama Celeste. Known throughout the region as a gifted practitioner of voodoo, her weathered hands were said to weave spells that could both heal and harm. But it was her most prized possession, a small, intricately crafted voodoo doll named Esmeralda, that held the most terrifying power of all. Legend had it that Esmeralda was once a beautiful Creole woman who had been wronged by a wealthy plantation owner. Seeking justice, she had turned to Mama Celeste, who, in her wisdom and wrath, transformed her into the vengeful doll that now lay dormant in the old woman's cabin. On a stormy night, as thunder rumbled and lightning tore through the sky like jagged claws, the young couple, Claire and Jack, sought refuge in the bayou after their car broke down. Desperate and soaked to the bone, they stumbled upon Mama Celeste's cabin, unaware of the dark secrets that dwelled within its walls. Mama Celeste greeted them with a toothless grin, her eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. She invited them to warm themselves by the crackling fire and offered them spiced tea that tasted of bitter herbs and forgotten dreams. As the night wore on, the couple recounted their tale of woe, and Mama Celeste's gaze fell upon them, knowing more than she let on. With a knowing smile, she disappeared into the back of the cabin, leaving Claire and Jack to their own devices. It was then that Claire noticed Esmeralda, perched atop a dusty shelf, her button eyes glinting malevolently in the firelight. A chill ran down her spine, but before she could voice her unease, Mama Celeste returned, carrying a small, intricately carved box. "This here be the cure for what ails ye," Mama Celeste crooned, her voice a melodic chant that seemed to wrap around them like a shroud. She handed the box to Claire, who opened it to reveal a tiny voodoo doll, its features twisted in a grotesque parody of humanity. "This be Esmeralda, the bringer of justice," Mama Celeste whispered, her voice heavy with prophecy. "Use her wisely, for her power is great, but her wrath is greater." Claire hesitated, her fingers trembling as she held the doll in her hand. But the lure of revenge burned bright in her heart, fueled by the injustices of the past and the promise of retribution. That night, as the storm raged on outside, Claire whispered her deepest desires into the ear of the voodoo doll, her words a litany of curses and wishes for revenge. And as she slept, the doll stirred to life, its tiny limbs moving of their own accord, guided by a force older than time itself. The next morning, Claire awoke to find Jack writhing in agony, his body contorted in ways that defied nature. Horrified, she reached for the voodoo doll, only to find Esmeralda missing from her grasp. Panic seized her heart as she frantically searched the cabin, her eyes falling upon Mama Celeste, who sat by the fire, her gaze as inscrutable as the shadows that flickered across the walls. "You have unleashed forces beyond your control," Mama Celeste intoned, her voice a warning that sent shivers down Claire's spine. "Esmeralda demands payment for her services, and woe be to those who dare to defy her will." Determined to save Jack, Claire ventured into the heart of the bayou, guided by an otherworldly pull that drew her deeper into the darkness. The trees whispered their secrets, and the swamp murmured its mournful lament, but she pressed on, her heart aching with guilt and desperation. Finally, she stumbled upon a clearing shrouded in mist, where Esmeralda awaited her, her button eyes gleaming with unholy light. Without hesitation, Claire fell to her knees, begging for mercy and forgiveness, but the voodoo doll remained unmoved, her silence echoing through the stillness of the bayou. "You have trespassed against the laws of nature and invoked the wrath of the spirits," a voice boomed from the shadows, and a figure emerged from the mist, his form that of a spectral slave driver from ages past. "You must pay the price for your folly, for the balance must be restored." With a wave of his hand, the figure summoned Jack, his body twisted and broken, his eyes vacant and empty. Claire's heart shattered at the sight of him. But before she could reach out to him, Esmeralda spoke, her voice a chilling echo of Mama Celeste's warning. An eye for an eye, a heart for a heart, the voodoo doll intoned, her tiny hand reaching out to touch Jack's chest. And with a flash of light, he crumpled to the ground, his life force drained by the curse of the vengeful doll. Tears streamed down Claire's face as she cradled Jack's lifeless body, her heart heavy with grief and regret. In her folly and arrogance, she had unleashed a power beyond her understanding, a force of nature that cared not for mortal woes and desires. As the mist enveloped them, Claire felt a presence at her side, and she turned to see Mama Celeste standing before her, her face lined with sorrow and wisdom. "You have learned a harsh lesson this day, child," Mama Celeste said, her voice a soothing balm to Claire's shattered soul. "The path of vengeance leads only to darkness and despair, for true justice lies in the hands of fate and time." And as the sun rose over the bayou, casting its golden light upon the stillness of the clearing, Claire made a vow to never again tamper with powers beyond her control. For the curse of the vengeful voodoo doll had claimed its toll, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and regret that would haunt her for the rest of her days.